ministry that you will not go beyond in God's eyes. And that is the level of being able to support, maintain, and uphold it the way God wants it. That means that when you get to your peak, and he said he won't give you no more than you're able to bear, or he won't put on you no more, or he gives according to your severable ability. That means that when you get to the peak of your max, it stops. Why? Because God would not allow you to be devastated with too much than what you can walk in. And you find, again, recycling. You find, okay, we can get here and then we have to go back down, and we get here and we go back down. Sooner or later you're going to realize my foundation is not big enough to support more than what this is. So let me go all the way down, tear back down the foundation, put it on a greater, stronger foundation, and let me start building now. Again, if I'm going to build a 20 feet skyscraper, we got some foundation layer. If I'm going to build a 20 level skyscraper, I can't lay a foundation that will only hold a 2-level house.
That's right.
Amen.
Because every time I get above that, it's going to start crumbling. It's going to start crumbling. And so in order to get there, I got to lay the foundation strong enough. And this is the thing that sometimes we don't realize is that you're not the one that determines the size that God wants it. You can handle the size that God can get it, but you're not the one that determines the size that God wants it. Eyes have not seen nor ears heard. God wants it big. And that's why, I brought these pictures, because you're connected to something bigger than what you realize. You know, in my lobby, there's a legacy wall that talks about the different legacy that we come from, and some of you are similar to that same legacy, and you got to realize that you're connected to something greater. Wherever you're connected to is bigger than just you. It's bigger than just you. So don't just look at you and you. Look at the bigness of what you're connected to. And realize that God wants to do some great things in me, on me, and through me. Again, I know it by my connection. I brought another problem. A Bible. He said, that ain't a problem. That should be your Bible. Well, I don't preach out of this one anymore. Used to, I don't anymore. But the unique thing about this Bible, that it was signed by a person. Now, I've met and had the privilege of meeting some great men and women of God, and some of them are sitting in this place today. Amen. But I've also, again, had the opportunity, just the mere fact of my relationship with Dr. Dollar. Went to high school with him, played high school football. He actually led me to Christ and got me born again. And so I realized that connection that most people all over the world, if you mention the name of Creflo, or however they say it, his name is Creflo, Dr. Creflo Dollar, if you mention his name, they pretty much know who you're talking about. Pretty much. So that means that for me to be connected, to be associated, to be in relationship with, that is a substantial connection. The magnitude of what God has called him to do and my connection to him makes what I do substantial. So is your connection. Now, again, I've met a lot of great men and women of God, and some by chance, some by, just passing. But again, if you look on our wall, you see the legacy that we come from. Oral Roberts, Kenny Copeland, Dr. Dollar, and then being my Pookie co-pastor, Pastor Warte. But I was hired to be crusade director of World Changers years ago. And part of my job was to set up all his speaking engagement and that. And our connection, I was there when Dr. Dollar first met Brother Copeland. first met him, first introduced to Brother Copeland, I was standing right next to him. And part of our job was when Brother Copeland decided to do a crusade in Atlanta, he had us as the host church. And because I was Pastor Dollar's armor bearer, I had the privilege of driving Brother Copeland and Sister Gloria around and really, you know, when Pastor Dollar first did his Brother Copeland television broadcast, week-long television broadcast, I was right there with him. Now, you say, again, what's so great about that? For me, it was awesome. Amen. It was awesome. And not only was it awesome, you know, just to be in the present and just to be there to hear the wisdom and the revelation that comes out of those two great men of God. And then after it's finished and cut, and then he walked to me and he called me by name. I'm talking about Brother Copeland. For him to know you by name, I mean, that was awesome. And so when he did, again, for me, it was a big thing. I'm saying this because my vision can't be small being connected to something that great. And I'm telling you, your vision can't be that small connected to something that great. You've got to enlarge your vision. You got to know that it's bigger than what you're presently operating in. You got to believe that. You got to believe it. So again, had an opportunity to drive him when he did the crusade here, and I was driving him, and you know, just amazing, you know, taking him to his room, you know, and you know, he and his drummer, and come on in, Red. He didn't call me Ray, he called me Reggie. Come on in, Reggie. I'm good. Now come on in, sit down. Yes, sir. And then during the conference, he said, go to the bookstore and get anything you want. Anything you want. Just tell him I told you to get anything you want. So I got one of his Kenny Copeland Bibles. And you know I had to have him to sign it. Yes. And it said, thanks, Reginald, for being such a blessing to Gloria and me and to this ministry. May God richly and best always be yours. Jesus is the Lord. Kenny Copeland. Again, I'm saying this in the sense that that divine connection, and because of that divine connection, it makes what I do larger than sometimes my perspective and even what I see in me and around me. But I gotta know it's bigger. And so this is my vision. This is my vision, is to enlarge our capacity, not by making God great, because God is already great. He's great enough. Not by giving you more ability, because God's grace has given you all the ability you need. But by changing your perspective in your mind. Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. By enlarging your mind capacity to be able to envision, to dream, to perceive, to comprehend the greater things that God wants to bring into your life and walk you through. So that's our intent, is to make sure that when God starts showing you, start revealing to you, start giving revelations and insight and concept and witty invention to you, that your foundation is strong enough to support what God wants to do. Amen? Amen. Now, what I'm going to do? One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to expose you to some things that are, what I believe are ministries that Not all of them today. We're not going to do all. We're just going to do one tonight, and that's going to be all for this weekend. But our connection is going to keep you being fed with, again, more wisdom, more knowledge, more understanding, more fundamental concept that will strengthen, support, and add value to the stability in which God has established you in, to be more stable, sound, and steadfast, unmovable, always abounding, so that God can finish the work He started. But we're gonna introduce you to some ministry, and I'm gonna introduce a couple to come up and talk about a ministry that I believe is essential in every ministry, but not as common in most churches. It's a ministry that I believe that every church should have some form of concept of this ministry. My last function at World Changers was over something similar to this, but again, right before I started World Covenant at World Changers, my assignment was, I have been doing outreach ministry for close to 15 years and traveling and doing my, boot camps and things, and got a call from World Changers, and Pastor Law said we want to upgrade our counseling department. And, before I started the outreach ministry, I was primarily the main counselor. I wrote the guidelines in which they use for counseling, and said we want to upgrade our counseling department, and we want to know if you can come back and work part-time. And this was through, it wasn't Dr. Dollar directly, it was through, translation, amen. And so I said, well, I travel, no problem, he understands that. Would it be all right if I just work Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursday, so that I can use Friday for travel, in case I had to go out of town on the weekend, and Monday for rest, because I'm going to need it. No problem. And so I did that for a year, and in the midst of being on the counseling staff for that time, they put me on schedule to do Bible study. I was doing water baptism. I was doing baby dedication. I was doing homegoings. I was doing everything a pastor would do. And it stirred up some things in me. And I said, you know what? I need to sit down and talk to Dr. Dollar. So I wrote him a note and said, listen, there's so much more in me. I just don't know how to release it. Can I sit down and talk to you? Sure. Now, I'm in staff meeting. I'm with him all the time, but I don't use that time as a time to get counseling. Because that's not my counseling. That's not my calling. So, set up a meeting. The first thing came out of his mouth, Red, you got to be willing to do whatever God called you to do, even if that means pastor. And that's when it opened up to me, because you can never. So we started. I'm going somewhere. So we started the process, me and my wife, of pastoring a church and yada yada yada, go down to Tampa, yada yada. And we was getting ready to sign a contract on a building to start the church, and got a call from Dr. Dollar. Red, I need you to take on a new position. He wanted to replace a person out of position, and I said, we'll do it. I called the person that was negotiating the bill and said, listen, we're not going to do that. It's on hold. Everybody around me started up, what we're going to do? I said, we ain't going to do nothing right now. We're not going to do nothing right now. My pastor needs me. So that next position I held, I was over 60-something volunteer ministry, had over 100 full-time employees. I was over the call center. I was over the counselors. I was over the food bank. I was over the, all of these ministries. And again, it was that final tuning to prepare me for pastor. And that final test to see if I'm really submitted and committed. Or if I'm going to cut ties and go by my own business. Because if you can't let go, if you don't value the call, the anointing, the vision above you, then who's going to value your vision? So in that, it gave me a greater understanding of this ministry that I'm going to call, this ministry we're going to call forth, because that was my title, member care. But what I did was I brought into a capacity of what really member care was all about. When I was over member care, I was over everything. Children ministry, teen ministry, ushers, greeters, parking lot, every volunteer ministry, call center, everything. I was just everything, like the general manager. But I remember care, and I'm going to ask the couple to come up. Now, one of the things that I do here at the church, and I believe that is most effective, is that I believe in the couples ministry. Not that it's necessary, but I just believe it works better when couples operate in leadership together. I believe that. And a lot of our departments, a lot of our ministry, not all of them, the letter killeth, but the spirit giveth life. Not all of them. We have single people, we have single women over ministry. Even the person that coordinates Servanthood Academy is a single woman. So again, it doesn't matter about that so much, but as much as possible, I believe in couples working together. Why? Because it keeps them together. Yes, it does. Not one have to be here at one time and another here at another time. When you're working together, you're here together at all times. And so I'm going to introduce the guests, and they're going to tell you a little bit about the member care ministry and some of the things that they do. I believe that if you are to be a healthy church and really, how many know that our commodity is people? Yeah. We're in the people business. That means we can do a whole lot of other things, but if our people, if our congregation is not healthy, supported, and well taken care of, we are missing the boat. Deacon.
First, give honor to our pastors, to the visiting pastors, ministers, elders, to our friends out there. Good evening, family. I'm going to let you know right now, you got to go easy on us, because members care is usually behind the scenes. We don't come up and talk. Stay back there. Watch for y'all to fall, and we come running. Okay? So let me introduce you to my wife. What we want to do is give you just a little why, and then a what, and go into who members care takes care of. My wife, Wendy Eskin.
Good evening, everyone. I want to just piggyback on my husband and thank you all, everyone, for coming out this weekend. Mama Wante has had us scrubbing and cleaning and printing and reprinting and punching holes the wrong way and doing everything to get ready for you guys to come out. And we count it a privilege to prepare everything for you. We hope that you have a great experience while you're here with us, and we count it a privilege to have you guys here with us. So as my husband has said, now he has his notes and I have mine so we can stay on track. We've been over member care ministry for about 4 or 5 years now. And I was just sitting in the back and I was thinking of how we got started, and one of the things that co-pastor always told us is, when what you do for one person, you have to do for everyone. You have to treat everyone the same. And so at the time, I thought that was, okay, well, that's easy. I order flowers and we get the cards out and we're good. But as we've grown in this ministry and working with our volunteers, that was fine in the beginning, but we had to change a little bit because not everyone is the same. And we want everyone to know that they are special in our congregation. And so over time, yes, we do the flowers and we send the cards, but we had to pay attention to each individual person. What are your individual needs? Everyone in here has been sick or going through a healing. Many of us have had to have a surgery, a death in the family, or maybe even a wedding, a baby being born, something to celebrate. But each time it's special because it's you. And you don't want to be just like everybody else. When it's your grandbaby, oh, that's the grandbaby. You know, all the other grandbabies are fine, but yours is, you know, the one. So part of what we're charged with is to make sure that we have every member feel like it's really just about them in that moment, that they're important. And so part of the foundation that we had to lay was to make sure that we tend to each individual's needs as best we can and let them know that no matter what they're celebrating or what their challenge is, that we are praying with them and standing in agreement with them, that we are supporting them, and that we are making sure that the pastors have all the information to know what's going on with them, because many of you are pastors and ministers, and you know you can't go to every hospital room. Sometimes it's just not possible. And we have been blessed that we haven't had to do that often here at World Covenant, but again, it is, we count it a privilege to be able to be the eyes and ears for our pastors so that we can keep them abreast of what's going on and know, sometimes we get ahead of the train instead of getting run over by it. And as co-pastor would, and I often say, here it comes in clusters. We get babies in groups. We've got, the third one to come now, and so they usually come 3 or 4 at a time. And sometimes we get people that have to go through a severe healing of some kind, and sometimes that'll come 3 or 4 at a time. So we've grown over the years, and we've gotten, I hope, better at servicing each one of those individual needs and making them feel like they're important to us. One of the things that I reflected on was we did a couple of weeks. We studied with Pastor on the fruits of the Spirit. And you are all familiar with that in Galatians 5, and I had to look at how that applied to what we do. What does that look like for us? And as I reflected on it, one of the things that stood out for me was that some of those fruits of being patient and kind and loving are very necessary when it comes to taking care of the members of your church. If you don't have those really deep-seated in you, it's not going to come across to the people that need it. It's one thing to make that phone call, but it's another thing to be able to listen. And it's one thing to say, don't worry, you'll get over it. And it's just another thing to say, just take your time. We'll be here for you for as long as it takes. So that's how it applied, I think, to us in our ministry. And we've been able to impart that into the volunteers that work with us as well. Yeah, and so then what we're going to do is I'm going to let Deacon tell you about some of the attributes or the categories that we cover in our ministry.
Let me tell you up front, she stole all my good lines.
But she does.
So the one thing I want to point out is that as you go into Thessalonians 5 and 11, it ends with being consistent, which is a main part of members' care. What you do for one, as you said, you do for everybody, such that they always feel the pastor's love for them through what we do. The things that we do, and pastors touched on some of them. Let us know if we're going too long.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I know before you go.
Water baptism. And when I say water baptism, I'm talking about from the point in which they say they want to be baptized until the point where they receive a certificate. Baby baptism, the same. Wedding coordinator, we have someone on staff that does that. Come in, tell you everything you need to do as it relates to the church, and so that it'll be done correctly. Homeroom, that is something you want to get right the first time, because there is no second time. When someone loses somebody, you do not want them to feel the pain of something going wrong with the service. So you want somebody that's going to be there for you to make sure everything that's coming through your church is done correctly. Benevolence. You never know when somebody's going to need. That includes you. You never know when it's your turn. Call center, every month, or every other month now, We call those that we do not see. We call those that we know that are maybe hurt. We call those that may be sick. We call those people that are first-time guests. We touch bases with them to let them know that we love them, that we're concerned for them, that we want them to come back and fellowship. We also do different things for fellowship. We have our Family and Friends Day next month. We have our Hallelujah Night. Y'all come on out or come back and hang out with us for a little while. And since we know that God said that by his stripes we are what? Healed. We don't call it sickness and distress. We call it healing and recovery. Okay? So I'm staying on. So we don't get in trouble. So the things that we're telling you is because, and the point that my pastor's making is that it's documented. These are in our SOPs. So it's not just biblical, but it's in our SOPs, just how we're going to get it done. That's how we keep it constant. Because we can simply go back and say, you call this one on the third day, and call our SOP, you call them back again on the 9th day, and you call them back again on the 15th. Did you do that? If you did not do that, then we did not meet our own SOPs. That's the minimum, okay?
Another thing we wanted to just touch on with everyone here is we try to connect our church's vision and our mission statement with what we do in our ministry. And one of the things that is, as Pastor Zeller shared just this evening, is that everything we do is based on servanthood. If you have any reservations about being in service of any capacity, then this is probably not going to be the place for you, because we all do everything. But one thing that happens is that when someone is going through something that is not the best experience in their Christian life, as is the case if you're ill or taking care of someone else that's ill, in essence, that's a man down. That's someone that is off the front line now, that is out of the game, and so they need, again, that tending to, because everyone has to be in this walk together. Pastor Zell says, you might as well wait, because if you get there first, you still gotta wait for me, and it's until we all get there. So if you have a man down, you just can't leave that person behind you. You've got to go back and pick them up. You've got to see what it is that they need and help them get back on their feet. So that is something that we, also try to share with the other leaders in the church. One of the things that we do is if Minister Gloria is down and I know her grandson goes to the children's ministry, but while we're tending to Minister Gloria, I've got to call the children's ministry and say, hey, you got 2 kids over there that used to come with their grandmother, and the grandmother's not going to be able to make it. And in the past, we've had times when the children's ministry say, well, I know where they live. I'll go pick the kids up and bring them so they don't miss a Sunday. And then by the same token, Minister Gloria is married, so we might have to contact the men's ministry, say, you got a man down on your team. I need one of the gentlemen to call them and see what he needs that will enable him to take care of his household or take care of his wife. So in that respect, we not only work amongst ourselves, but we work with all the other couples and the other ministries in the church, because we can't do it alone. We have to do it as a body, as a family. And that takes us to our love and our covenant that's part of our vision as well. Our covenant is with one another. Our covenant is about love. It's about, as Pastor teaches us, connection. And because of connection, I haven't seen Sister Sally in a couple of weeks, and I know she's going through something. Let me give her a call. Oftentimes another member will come to us and say, I haven't seen someone. Do you know what's happened to them? Typically, after service on Sunday, I do what's called reconnaissance work, because we're all buzzing around trying to look for everybody we haven't seen, or somebody came in with a limp and I've got to run them down and say, hey, what's going on with that foot? Because we're a family. And so when we see that something is out of order or someone doesn't look their usual, we want to find out what's going on. Because if we can get ahead of the situation, then it is more beneficial for everyone that's involved. One of the, let's see, One of the other things, okay, we talked about being a service and being a family and showing love. And then, of course, our covenant relationship with one another.
All right. So now that you know a little bit about the why and a little bit about the what, let me tell you about the who. The who is the part is, and y'all excuse me, I work in customer service, so I always try to identify my customer. And a lot of times we'll get away from that because it's some people it's about me, and they have to. When you're in members care, it's never about you. You see what I'm saying? So even when we had the members family and friends day, the realization is it wasn't for us. It was for those that were coming to partake in the family and friends day. So yeah, we want you to have a little water, a little juice. We want you to smile a whole lot and play a little bit. But we want to make sure that our guests are taken care of in the hopes that they will then come back and want to see God. You see what I'm saying? Excuse me, I went straight to broke. So our customers are our elders, are our ministers, are our teachers in the team ministry, are our leaders, are our helpers, and mostly are our members. Those are our customers for us as members of members care to take care of, just like they were our own children. So, and I derived that from even my work experience, because my people will get very comfortable, because in my job, we manage people on the street, a lot of people, about 800-900 people on the street, but it's only 12 of us. But we're sitting in a place where there's air conditioning, and there's guards out front. But we're managing people who are meeting customers out front. So even in your life, when you're sending people out there to meet Christ, or to teach people about Christ, you have to understand that the people in members care, we have to take care of those people because they're going to get hit hard. Everybody don't want to know about Christ. And they will come at you a little negatively. And when they come in, beat up, beat down, we are the ones who have to go to them and strengthen them back up. Because our pastor's not always there. We are his extension as members care. Okay? Okay. Okay, there you go. My coat been pilled. All right, I'm gonna let you go ahead and finish. But okay, so the basic things that our members need are, again, acceptance, feeling of family, social contact, love, shelter, clothing, food, and safety. And as my wife speaks, can the members of Members Care please stand up?
All right, you put the conclusion on me. Thank you, guys. So we hope that was, helpful. And of course, we know that each church is different, each staff is different. So it may be called something different where you are, or it may be different participants in that ministry. But the ultimate goal is to let your members know that you're a family and that you all have the same goals in mind, the same visions in mind. And just be sure that anytime you have a man down, that you don't leave them behind. Somebody has to go back and pick them up, make sure they're equipped, because we're in this battle together. And so we have to function as one and with that strength. So that is all we have.
Amen. Good job. Again, part of the reason of exposing you to ministry such as that is that our intent is to eventually break each group into the calling in which they are called to. In other words, when you come and you are in the usher department or the music department or the children ministry or whatever ministry department you operate in, that you're going to be with people of light, precious faith, and calling, and then your teaching is going to be geared to those specific training and fundamental foundational understanding and principles so that you can get, again, not the specifics. But again, if we don't have something that makes us similar and connected, our differences is going to divide us. Now, one of the things that before I teach, not long, but for the pastors, I don't know if I may have shared with most of you, some of you, about my rock. My rock. I know most of our members of World Covenant have their rock, the rock. So what's so unique and different about the rock? Well, the rock was given to me by an individual, and it was during a time where I was struggling with the separation and the isolation and being different. And the thing was, he said, you have to embrace your difference. You have to be good with being different. If you're not good with being different, you're going to fight with others who is different than you. And so I went on a campaign of making sure that whenever there was a thought that I wasn't important enough or special enough in God's eye, I rubbed my right rock and said, you know what, there's only one like it. I must be that special enough to only make one. And it's the same thing with you. And so again, I'm going to give the pastors, hopefully, their rock tonight. But I want each and every one of you to get a rock before you leave. And but I want you to know that if your connection, because the rock signifies your differences, the uniqueness of who you are. But if your connection is not strong enough, your difference will be magnified and it will cause a division. That means you got to have your connection strong enough to support your differences. You got to be so secure that you're not threatened. You know, the 3 C's: don't compete, don't compare, don't complain. You got to be so secure in who you are that you let others be who they are and feel not be threatened by that. Because what God is wanting to do, and we're going to look at Ephesians. I believe Ephesians is one of the most important verses of Scripture that we could ever embrace when it comes to ministries of help and when it comes to the body of Christ and the end time move that God is wanting and desiring to do. Ephesians 4:1 says, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that you walk worthy, this is verse 1, of the vocation wherewith you are called. This is the first verse of chapter 4. It says that you walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, forbearing one another in love, and endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Now I'm going to read 1 through 3 in the Amplified and also in the Message Bible. The Amplified said, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, appeal to and beg you to walk, lead a life worthy of the divine calling to which you have been called, with behavior that is a credit to the summons to God's service. Yes. Woo! That's some good stuff. Amen. See, this is the thing that you got to make sure. See, many are called, but few are chosen. Everybody in here has a call of God on their life. Now, even though our calling, we're going to see this, even though our calling may be a little different, our calling is still for one purpose. Verse 2 of the Amplified says, living as become you, with complete lowliness of mind, humility, and meekness, unselfishness, gentleness, mildness, with patience, bearing with one another and making allowance because you love one another. Be eager and strive earnest to God and keep the harmony and oneness of and produced by the Spirit in the binding power of peace. It doesn't matter about how different you are. If your connection is not strong enough to keep you connected, you're still going to be all by yourself. Amen. And how many know that God has not called us to do anything alone? Yes. I'm going to read it in the Message Bible. I, therefore, the prisoner, no, it said, in the light of all of this, hear what I want you to do. While I'm locked up here, a prisoner for the master, I want you to get out there and walk, better yet, run on the road God called you to travel. I don't want any of you sitting around on your hands. I don't want any strolling off down some path that goes nowhere. And mark that you do this with humility and discipline, not in fit and start, but steadily pouring yourself out for each other in act of love, alert at noticing the differences, and quick at mending fences. Yes. Yes. It's amazing how we can say God called us to a vision, but people led us away. I think one of the biggest frustration of pastors, and I'm talking to you as leaders and ministers and elders and gifts and callings of God in your local vision, one of the biggest frustrations of pastors is when they get a piece in place and they start working on another piece. By the time they get the other piece in place, the piece they had in place done got out of place. We can't grow and get to another place because we're always having to replace the same piece that we once put in place. That means that you got to make sure you stay connected. Think of it this way. It doesn't matter how much information you give. It doesn't matter how much you grow. It doesn't matter how much anointing you have to operate in. If you don't stay connected to where God called you to use it at, what use do you have with it? He who began a good work in you is more than able to complete it. And this is the thing. You have to settle on this journey. You know what? I'm going to let God finish the work he started. And I'm not going to stop. I'm not even going to back down. I'm not even going to walk. I'm going to start running. I'm going to do like David did when he saw Goliath. I'm going to run to him, not run from him. Amen. Now I'm going to read the rest of it in the King James. It says, there is one body. See, after he solidified the fact that, listen, this is how you ought to carry yourself, and you're going to make sure in carrying yourself you stay connected. Why? Because there's only one body, one spirit, even as you are called into one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God, one Father of all, who is above all, and through all, and in you all. As unique as your rock, you're still connected to something bigger than you. Amen. And as you get to pick your rock, this is the thing. It is not based on the size of, I want a big rock. Having a big rock doesn't make you big. Having a small rock doesn't make you small. Having a light color rock or a dark color rock doesn't make anything better or worse. Having God make you sufficient.